Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Heidi Horsley, and I'm here today in our New York studio, and we are going to be talking about spouse loss. 9/11 widows speak about their grief. And this is such an important show today because we are coming up on the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And this has impacted not only our city here in New York, but the entire country and actually the entire world. So we're going to speak with people that have personally experienced loss and what this means to them. And we also have Carrie Pike joining us, who has become a very good friend of Donna Angelini and Denise Lynch, who are our guests today. So let me introduce them. I'll start with Carrie because she's here in the studio with me. And Carrie is from Salt Lake City, Utah. That's where she lives. And in the fall of 2001, she joined together with the Caring Connection to make a Carrie Bear for each of the fallen firefighter, police officer, and Port Authority families. In total, she made 422 bears, which is amazing. She personally delivered the bears to the families of Engine 54 in December of 2001. And she is the author of a book, Heroes of 9/11, A Brotherhood and Connections That Never End After Loss. So welcome to the show, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us in the studio. And we have from Lyndhurst, New York, Donna Angelini and Denise Lynch joining us virtually. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, ladies.
Hi, thanks for having us.
It's great to have you on the show. Denise Lynch, will you wave, Denise, so we know which one you are? There she is a firefighter widow whose husband, Michael Lynch, died in the September 11th attacks. Michael was a firefighter in Midtown Manhattan at Ladder Company 4 and a dad to his 2 young children. He worked with Donna's husband. So Donna Angelini is also an FDNY widow who lost both her husband and father-in-law on 9/11. Joseph Angelini Sr. and his son Joseph Jr. were both firefighters. Joseph Sr. was 63 and had worked for the FDNY for 40 years. His son Joseph Jr. worked in Midtown Manhattan at Ladder Company 4. Joseph Sr. had 4 children and Joseph Jr. had 3. So welcome to the show, Donna and Denise.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk today about spouse loss. And I guess we'll start out, and I'm going to ask you a little bit about your husbands. So, Donna, do you want to start?
Joe was everything. I'm quoted many times saying he was the air in my lungs. Mm-hmm. He was someone who could do everything. There wasn't anything he couldn't do, from fixing a toy, building models, gardening, baking, homemade pizza. The firehouse used to call him Mr. Gadget. Mm-hmm. He loved going to the library with the children. He was an all-around great dad and a fabulous husband.
So he knew how to fix everything and was a dad to your kids. And I can't even imagine. I mean, I know he was so much more, but when you lose someone that is Mr. Fix-It and can do it all, it's that in and of itself is a big loss. But like you said, it's hard, I'm sure, to even describe what your husband's meant to you. Because
there's no words.
There's the void that they left, I'm sure, is unbelievable. Mm-hmm. So Denise, tell me about Michael, a little bit about Michael.
We met on St. Patrick's Day. He had just marched on the parade, and he was full dressed. And I went over to him, put a shamrock on his cheek, and that's how we met. Like, I knew that moment I was going to marry him. He's from a big Irish family. He's the baby of 8. He's just a wonderful man, a great, fantastic dad. He loved his boys. He was so excited. With all of those brothers and sisters, my boys have the last name Lynch.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was like a very proud moment when he had the 2 boys, because he has so many sisters. He just loved family. He loved sports, played basketball, softball. I don't even know what else.
Golf?
Yes, golf. It's just hard because I said goodbye on Saturday. When did you say goodbye? I'm just thinking
Monday night.
And 9/11 was Tuesday. Like, that's how our lives were. They worked 24s. They went, came back.
So they'd work for a 24-hour shift?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, depending on how they set it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said goodbye Saturday morning. Jack woke up for a bottle. He was 6 months old. And then he left for work. he worked that day and night. And then Sunday morning, he went golfing. I sent him golf clothes, golf clubs. That's when you said it. That's what I remembered. And then Sunday night got overtime. Monday worked his regular shift. Monday night, Monday he was supposed to come home, but we had the babysitter and everything. He stayed in the city, worked his shift Monday into Tuesday. That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
so it was normal
when
just
the boys asked me, I'm like, we said goodbye Saturday morning. Michael, my oldest, actually said goodbye Friday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I said
And that was
goodbye.
normal for us.
I said goodbye on Sunday, but I talked to him Monday night on the phone.
Well, what's interesting about the fire department, and, as you know, I worked with the firefighters for 10 years, and I learned all this stuff. I learned about your culture, because I didn't realize the fire department was a culture. And I was quickly told by the anthropologist on our team, Heidi, it is a culture. You're going to find out. This is like, there's the bond is so strong. And he said, and these dads are on-hands dads. They're Mr. Moms. They spend a lot of time with their kids. They're not like gone all the time, They're there supporting their kids, and they're really on hands. And a lot of them are good cooks, right? Because they're in the fire department.
Yeah.
So.
But that was also our banter back to each other. I'm like, well, what would you do if he was working 12 hours? What would you do if he was working 24? Like, how do we get through this? And then we called the firehouse. But a lot of times it was like, what if he was coming back? What would we do? Like, how are we going to get through these next few hours?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
we had each other, so that was a big thing.
So you leaned on each other and supported each other.
Yeah. I mean, we knew each other.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other. Now we could probably tell each other everything about our lives because we're so.
My oldest is the same age as her youngest. So we were just, I'm only married 4 years.
I was just married 10, short
Wow.
of 10.
It's a big difference.
But then Denise and she became my rope and I was hers, and we just held on for everything. I'd call her crying in the middle of the night. She'd call me crying in the middle of the night, and we would just fix what we could.
That's amazing. So you became like sisters.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the firefighters in the firehouse are like brothers.
Right.
Yes.
So it was like a sisterhood. Wait, what were you saying, Denise, about sisters?
I said we fight the same.
No, we don't fight like that.
I have to say
That's not true.
Yeah. So let's bring Carrie into this
No.
conversation because we haven't had her in here
No,
yet.
I just have to say one thing. I remember when we were together at dinner a couple of years ago, Denise, you would say that you'd call Donna and ask a question or something. She's like, I can't talk right now. And you'd call her like 2 minutes later and say, okay, you good?
I just call back like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Like, okay now.
Yeah.
I love
Are
it.
you ready for me? What do you mean you can't talk to me?
Yeah.
So Carrie, tell me how you know Donna and Denise. What is your role in all this? Because you are not a widow. You are not a bereaved widow. Okay.
No, I am not, thankfully. But back in 2001, there was a group of ladies from the Caring Connections who
And the Caring Connection is
in
an
the University
organization.
of Utah.
Okay.
Yeah, University of Utah. They're a grief counseling program out of the College of Nursing that called me and said, let's do bears for every family that lost firefighters, police officers, and Port Authority officers. And the first thing I said was no. There's no way we can do that.
Yeah.
They wanted. I know. Is that awful? I'm so sorry. I'm like, I was
changed her
over.
mind.
Now the truth comes out.
I know.
Exactly.
Well, it was over 400 bears, and I just thought there's no way we can do that. I mean, I was busy in my own business just doing regular bears, not regular, they're all grief bears, most of them, 99% of them are bears of people who are grieving and, for their families, something to hold on to. And I didn't think it was possible, but there were hundreds of people that helped out. They wanted to do something. Everyone wanted to do a little something to help these families and just fill their empty arms a little bit. And so we couldn't get the shirts of the firefighters, that would be a crazy idea. But we got the fabric that they used to make the shirts and then got the patches and individualized them all, with their, on the back of them with all of their names and everything. And the crazy idea, right, Denise has
I
her
love it,
her
Denise.
bear. Still, which
I'm gonna
is
get my van.
I know, it's just so wonderful. But we wanted to see the families if there was any way possible. We mailed all the rest of them, but it was a good thing we followed up and went and met these ladies. And the minute I won't cry, but the
Yes,
minute,
you will.
I know you know me so well. The minute I saw you, I just thought, wow. Our hearts were connected as we gave these bears to you. And from then, it continued. I would, email Dave Turner every 9/11 and say, I have not forgotten. And then when I met you again, the last couple of years, we've texted almost every month, if not more.
We talk all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this just shows that even though it's been 20 years, you can access the emotions quickly. They're still there in many ways, and I see the love you have for each other.
I love these ladies.
And it shows. It shows. It really, really shows.
Yeah.
I have another thought when it's kind of odd. Now, Denise and Donna, this might just be me, but it's odd to refer to you as widows because you were really young when your husbands died. You had young children. Was it strange to be called widows, or how did you feel about that word?
I became a widow with my mom. My dad died 3 weeks later.
Oh,
so
wow.
It was hard. It was definitely hard.
At all the funerals, we'd be corralled together. So we said we were the herd.
Oh, that's what we did to the guys. We started talking to each other, and there were 15 of us, and we'd all talk, and we decided that if we were all going to have funerals or celebration of lives, we were going to go to each other's funeral, and sometimes with our kids. So as all the guys would line up, they would part, full uniform, and they would part, and here would come all of us.
The 15 of us, yep.
14, right? Because one of us was having the funeral.
Oh, right.
And it was so emotional for them, but it meant something to us to be there for each other.
Right.
That's really powerful. And so you became a widow with your mother within 3 weeks. And what's also interesting, there's correlations between both of you because you were grieving 2 losses and Donna was grieving 2 losses, the loss of her father-in-law and her husband, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the weird thing is, at my dad's funeral, and I'm sure a lot of people came up to me and told me, I didn't believe Mike was alive. I mean, I didn't believe he was dead. So I thought he's going to survive. There's going to be like a bar down there that like the building like collapsed sideways, and they're going to have air and food, and they're going to come out of this.
And you heard stories like that. Maybe there's an air pocket. Maybe there's
that's what we thought.
Right.
How long did you wait?
The firehouse got what? Sorry.
No, I just remember you said, that you just kept waiting and you kept hoping and believing that they were there.
Well, right before we met you in December, they found the truck.
Yeah.
So we were like, oh, they found the truck, maybe. But by then we were kind of thinking.
I used to think like the firehouse got a phone call from one of my neighbors because I was out of it. And my one thing was that they were all kidnapped and they were being held ransom, remember? And that they were going to come home. And the other thing was, like Denise said, they're in a void. My father-in-law could do anything. He'd make something out of rotten fruit, and Joey would MacGyver something, or they were going to come out. Right. And the other thing was, well, Jesus survived for 40 days and 40 nights. Why can't these guys all survive? They're all firefighters. They're trained. They know what, so.
But for me, it was different. I was, after they found the truck, I realized that I was being selfish. And he would never want to come out, like, how do you explain it?
Wouldn't want to survive if everybody else.
He couldn't be a fireman after, or his life changed. So I was like, I'll take him any way he comes out. He's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, whatever. We're married for life. I love him so much. And I was like, that's so selfish. I was like, and then I started praying and hoping that he was in heaven with my dad. And then that helped me, like that they were together.
So here you all were, September 11th happens. For months, you weren't sure if they were alive or dead, or, you know, it was a very stressful time. And then when you find out, yes, they are gone, it's even more stressful.
But I became obsessed with going there. Right?
Yeah,
I was obsessed.
Every week we were there.
I had to go every week and see how much Ground Zero changed, how much
Yeah.
they were looking. And it was, for me, the most beautiful thing to see, because the whole entire, they called it the pit back then, would freeze and everybody would stop working and they would salute and they would, right, their hands on their heart, and they would carry, all work would just stop and they would carry out whoever that was. And to be there and just hope that when my turn is going to come, and it did, March 12th, right? They found them March 12th.
So
I was down there on March 11th and I bought
6 months in a day.
I bought 15 roses, long stem roses, and they brought them down to the bottom of the pit.
So it sounds
The
like
next day
these,
they were found.
wow. So it sounds like
Well,
these kind of rituals help both of you, and being down at Ground Zero and watching.
Well, I dragged her. She
I was
never
with
wanted
her,
to
yeah.
go.
Watching
But
the
they dressed us up like firemen. Remember that? They put bunker gear on us and they brought us down to the pit in a gator.
Donna never enjoyed going. I was more the one that was obsessed with going.
I just got worried, you know. And
But they would pick us up, the fire department. They would send a guy, pick us up, take us in like 10 o'clock at night, because we
Always
had to
at
have
night.
the kids asleep, and they
So-
bring us home by like 1 o'clock.
So given that you went through all this, and basically it sounds like it was pretty hellish, how have you gone on what has helped you during the last 20 years, over the last 20 years?
I
love
guess
it.
knowing people like Carrie out there cared. They wanted to get to know us. They wanted to help us through it, because we've tried every counseling.
Oh, yeah.
They don't all work.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do. But people like Carrie, who just check up on you, the firehouse, who just kept calling. Like, we're here. We're like only
Right, what do
phone
you
call
need?
away.
Friends that, you know, wouldn't give up on you. You
So-
just have to we had to let them in.
So that's an
It takes a
interesting.
village to
That's
raise kids.
it takes a village. Yeah. So and it's an interesting comment. So you've got to let them in. So talk more about that, because I imagine a lot of people wanted to come in, at least initially, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll sit with you. I mean, my house, I didn't even know I had a floor at the time, because everyone was just camping on floors and, you know, everyone wanted to be
But you
there.
know who your best friend is, because your best friend shows up with toilet paper, where everybody else is bringing food and water, and your best friend should, right? I mean,
So is
Or
there
milk for the kids that we forgot about.
is there anything
yeah.
that has surprised you over the last 20 years about the grief process in general? Is there anything that's been surprising?
just how much it still hurts.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't diminish.
Just because we're functioning and moving and smiling and laughing doesn't mean that we're not hurting. So,
I think you gravitate to other firefighter wives, because you know, even though like Dave, like for Audrey, she still got Dave, but Dave isn't, like, he's broken a little. He's hurting. So like you see
And Dave,
that.
for
So-
those of us that don't know, Dave was a firefighter in the house where your husband's worked.
Right. And he's a rock to us, but I know it hurts. I know he gives a lot to us, and we thank her all the time for sharing him.
Yeah, the wives that gave up their husbands to help us, they're heroes in their own way, because
They couldn't have been easy to be married to either.
no, not dealing with 9/11 and the wives and the kids, you know.
And Carrie, you met us our very first holiday.
Yeah.
With kids throwing up on us and bottles and everything.
And you
Mr.
were
Binkies.
and you were so gracious and so grateful. It was unbelievable. I remember we were just so privileged to be able and honored to be able to hug you and see you and give you a bear, and then you were kissing our cheeks, and we were like, wait, they're comforting us, because we were crying. And
Wow.
it was a magical moment that I will never forget. It changed me forever.
You met in-laws. You met, you met everybody.
You gave a part of yourself to help us to try to piece us back together.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful story. how you all came together and are still friends 20 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well, she never gave up on us.
yeah, I love
She
it.
sent me
never
taffy
will.
for my birthday. The nicest thing.
It's so yummy. And special nail polish.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I love it. So, yeah, so the importance of peer support and friends. What advice would you give people out there that have had a loss, have lost their spouse, don't know how they're going to survive, and don't even know if they want to at this point? Because I know you've both been there.
Oh, yeah. Know that you're not alone. And
I went bottle to bottle for a long time because Jack was so little. He was 6 months. So every 4 hours he needed a bottle. And I was like, okay, whatever I don't get done, whatever I don't do, next bottle will start fresh again. It's, just take on what you can.
I like this. So living like in airtight compartments and starting over again at the next bottle.
Beautiful.
and let people in. That's my biggest thing. And, you know,
I
you
guess
don't have to
gratitude too, right? Like, you don't be grateful for what other people.
are trying to do.
That was a big lesson for me, like realizing that grief has so many stages.
Mhm.
So Mike being from a big Irish family, and I mean big, like a immediate family could be like 50, right? At
Yeah.
least.
Oh, yeah.
And he had nieces and nephews, and everybody was at a totally different grieving stage. That was hard to understand because they didn't understand my stage. I didn't understand their stage. To just know that even though you don't understand, they're coming from a good place.
I like that. To try to understand that people mean well, even though sometimes they're in a different place with their grief.
Right.
And-
Because they
and-
loved him in a different way that I'll never understand. Like, that's
Yeah.
their brother. He's my husband.
Right. And Donna, when you say let people in, because you've said that a few times, and I love that idea, what does it look like to let people in?
It's
Do you
okay.
like him? No, what does he look like? Who picked you up?
Just, you know, because in the beginning, you're no, I can do it, I can do it. You probably can do it, but let people help you do it. Have someone. Like Denise, she pushed me for the longest time because I was like, no, I'm just gonna stay and that's it. And I'm not doing anything. Come on, we gotta go.
Yeah, because they didn't have ways back then. Like, I'm like, how do I get to your house? She's like, no, it's too far. I'm like, no, how do I get there?
But let people in. Let people help you.
And-
Delegate some help.
And I think it's a great piece of advice. And I think as FDNY families, what I've learned from working with the fire department is you all help. You're the helpers.
Yeah.
You're not only your husbands, but you're the helpers. You're used to going in and helping other people.
Oh yeah.
So
well, it's
you're
always easier to give than to receive.
Absolutely.
right.
We want to fix everything, so.
I know. And the thing is, I'm going to say, Donna, I think Denise still tries to work her way in. I think sometimes you're like, no, I'm okay. And
No,
then,
you're coming to the city. You're
I'm like,
coming.
tomorrow. She's like, I'm not going. I'm like, no, you're going to drive to my house and then we're going to go together the rest of the way. She was like, no. I'm like,
Heidi,
yes.
I'm terrified of the city since 9/11. I won't go in during a crowd. I won't go for anything big because I'm just terrified. My children are all I have now, and I'm all they have. So I still have that fear of something else happening. Denise has helped me do better with it, right? I've gotten better.
I tell her all the time, you're going to hit crossing the street. Let's go.
I wouldn't cross a bridge. I had a rough time driving over a bridge. She got me over my bridge multiple times.
I believe they're watching us. I'm like, they're in heaven, they're watching us, and I wouldn't want to be in heaven watching me sitting on the couch or like depressed. I want to be a good mom. I want to give back. I want to live. So I drag her along a lot.
So it sounds like that's what gives you comfort, knowing that they want you to live your best. Your husband wants you to live your best life.
Yeah.
And Donna,
And
would
the
you?
firehouse is like a home base for us. So it's almost like she goes from her house to my house to their other house.
And as this 20th anniversary approaches, is there something that you'd like to say to people out there?
Be kind to each other.
Yeah. Just,
I know it's COVID, but we still need hugs.
just,
I love that.
we got to, you know, make peace and just.
Forgive each other, I think.
yeah,
I think that's profound, actually.
beautiful.
Yeah, Carrie, what are your thoughts?
I just think that I remember when I was meeting with these ladies again 2 years ago, and now they feel like people have forgotten. And I
Oh, yeah.
I think that's my biggest thing is I want people to see them and remember and to be kind and to be people. You know, let's connect together rather than be so distant. And it's been really difficult to do that right now with COVID and everything else. But we can still do it. We can still do it in ways that work.
Yeah, I think that's important right now.
Really important.
Yes.
We need to come together as much as we can.
Yeah.
So any parting words, ladies?
Live each day to its fullest.
Thanks for coming, Carrie.
Thanks for being my friends.
Thank you.
And Carrie, you're going to get together tomorrow
Yeah.
at the firehouse, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
They called. They're expecting all of us.
And you're all going to be there for a celebration, or what is going on?
You know, just
Carrie's in town.
I love it. Spread the word around.
I just cannot not see these ladies for 9/11, and I know right on the day is really hard. So just
yeah.
came in a little early so that we can celebrate their husbands' lives together and each of them together, because life is worth celebrating,
Yeah.
even when you've had great loss.
And I think that's pretty profound, because the firehouse that their husbands worked in on 48th lost every person that worked that day.
All 15.
So if any of you are in New York, please go to this firehouse, pass it, pay remembrance to these 15 men that died and their families. They have some really incredible things on the outside of the house.
Yeah,
So-
honor them.
Yes, honor them, absolutely.
Say their names.
I love that. Say their names and live your best life for them.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
a beautiful, because they definitely, from what I've been told and what I've heard, your husbands lived their best life. So,
Too short.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for being guests on our show today. Thank you for educating the world that we, even if it's been 20 years, we are not going to forget. We don't forget. We shouldn't forget. And that love never dies.
Yeah.
You grieve as long as you're here, right? I mean, so thank you very much for being guests, and thank you for watching the Open to Hope show. If you want to see more of these shows, go to opentohope.com. I have had Carrie and Denise and Donna on another show that you can watch, so please tune in. And if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
The loss of a loved one can leave you feeling depressed, angry, alone, lost. But you don't have to face this journey on your own. Open to Hope is a free community for anyone who has experienced loss. Find support. Find help. Find hope. Give grief a voice at opentohope.com.